Hello, my name's Paul and welcome to another MAM Gaming video. Today we're going to go through my UI, the thought process behind my setup, as it may look a little odd for some of you, but it's something I found that allows me to play WoW in the most efficient and effective way that I can. Please note, I've built my UI around my 12-button MMO mouse. I'll show you there. There it is. I would highly recommend getting one, but what I cover will also apply to those without an MMO mouse too. So, you might pick up some other tips, so do stick around until the end. Also, not declaring that this setup is in any way the best top tier uber setup that everyone must use, and I'm not going to trash talk anybody else's setup either. Everyone is different, and this year might not be their cup of tea. So, that's fair enough. But if I can help somebody perform a little better by sharing a few tricks, then I'll be happy. So before we dive in, quick shout out to everybody who watched my last video. Much appreciated. It's on the Secret Valdraken nightclub. So yeah, thumbs up and shout out to you guys there. So this is the UI. As you can see, it is, well, I've had a few people say it's slightly odd. So, of course, we'll go through things there. Now, it's based on 3 principles for optimal performance I'll outline here, and of course I'll go into more detail a little later. So first of all, player and target frames are at the top left here. Okay, so I've currently selected myself, and just to show you how it is. 5 action bars set in oblong clusters, 4 across and 3 down. Default keybinds only on the keyboard. A bit of a hot take, but we'll get into that later. And also the most important action bars close to the character. So I've got all my abilities here, the main ones, as you can see, Tiger Palm, Fist of Fury, Rise of Sun Kick, etc. Less important further away, so maybe a few profession things here. Personal resource display is switched on, as you'll see if I start attacking this dummy. Okay, so let's get into the whys and wherefores of it. So why am I putting player and target frames at the top left here when quite a lot of people are putting them either side of the character? Well, that's because by using nameplates, which the default key for that is V, as you can see I've just switched off the one on the training dummy there. I'll switch it back on. You can already see the enemy's health on screen on a nameplate that's usually close enough to your character without having to move your eyes too much away. As for your own health, this can be tracked on the personal resource display, as I showed you there, which comes up in combat, which is the most important time you want it to come up there. This makes having frames near your character, as in these frames, a bit redundant really, because all the information is there anyway. Plus it takes some room which can be used for other UI elements there. However, there may be some times when I do want to look at the player memory frames, see buffs and debuffs a bit clearer, let's say, which is why I haven't got rid of these frames completely. I've just shoved them up in the corner there. It's just to avoid a lot of clutter around this area, really, which is quite busy anyway with all these bars here as well. Now, Paul, why have you done 5 action bars, set in oblong clusters, followed by 3 down, and why are you only using your default keybinds only there? Well, this is to match the button configuration given on my MMO mouse. So as you can see, if you follow my cursor on the screen here, this is button 1, button 2, button 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. Which matches up with those as well. So as I'm touching it with my thumb, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quite straightforward there. Now then, each bar rather, is separated by a modifier. So each bar is separated by a modifier. I use Shift, Control and Alt, along with kind of the normal buttons themselves. So that's 12 times 4, that's 48 potential buttons that you can reach just by pressing your mouse. Let's start attacking this training dummy. You can see my personal resource display. So I hit 1 for my Tiger Palm, then 3 for Fist of Fury, then maybe a blackout kick on number 2. Then as you can see, Expel Harm is on Shift 2 there. So Shift 2 to Expel Harm. Maybe on to Interrupt, I've got Shift 1. Tiger Lust, Shift 6, just quite easily got 2 on those there. All 6 buttons are there, kind of thing. Now, of course, I do know that this may sound a little daunting to those who aren't used to an MMO mouse, but in my experience, once I got used to all the buttons, it's been the single biggest DPS increase that I've done. I can safely say that using the MMO mouse has increased my DPS by about 30%, if not more. And that's a conservative estimate, by the way, so it's well worth investing in one if you can. Really. Also, you don't have to use all the 48 potential buttons if you don't need to. I just keep adding all the main abilities to mine, such as the combat abilities, heals, and damage reduction moves. So on this one. I mean, Windwalker Monk's a bit of a piano spec anyway. You have to use all these different buttons. But I've got everything more or less on just 1, 2, 3, etc. or Shift. Then Control is kind of more healing things and utilities. So Control 1, Vivify, Control 2, Detox, etc. Anything else I don't use often, like bring up profession tabs, let's say, I've kept on another bar just to be clicked on as and when needed. So I don't need to access them in a flash, so to speak. So just clicking on them is fine. You don't have to keybind those types of things. That might be, let's say, in this area here. So we've got your cooking, and just bring up that. Don't need massively quick access to that, really. Herbalism journals, things like that. Toys, Katie stamp whistles, your mobile mailbox, etc. So they're all on clickable areas there. With a MMO mouse, it does take a bit of getting used to, gotta say. So to start off with, the best thing to do, I found, is put your most spammed ability on button 1 and try and get used to using that button all the time for that ability. So let's say, I don't know, Tiger Spam, we use that quite often. So maybe if you're starting out, just put that on 1, and if you're a clicker or use some other keybinds, do them for the rest, and slowly build it up from there. So you can put a couple of more buttons on each time as you're going along there. Then once you're used to those, you can put some more on buttons 4, 5 and 6. As a general rule of thumb, I tend to put builders on 1, 2 and 3. So if you imagine a paladin, Judgment, Crusader Strike and Blade of Justice, let's say, button 1, 2 and 3. Then your spenders on 4, 5 and 6. So for the example of the paladin, Divine Storm, Templar's Verdict, etc. Abilities with bigger cooldowns I put on the other buttons further away, so we're going back to 10, 11 and 12 maybe, which also saves them from being accidentally pressed also. You don't want to kind of accidentally press hero if you're a shaman, of course. Now, hot take, but I rarely use any buttons on the keyboard beyond the normal Blizzard default movement keys, then the modifiers. I can reach shift and control with my little finger and alt and the spacebar within easy reach of my thumb. Try on your own keyboard, you might find it quite natural that way. Of course, some others might say that's not the most optimal way to keybind. Some people say put your movement keys on E, S, D, F and use all sorts of other keys on the keyboard there. But I just find using anything beyond these can be a little cumbersome and awkward for my fingers, especially if you're trying to move and cast at the same time. So think BM Hunter. And I don't really need it to do the number of buttons available through the mouse, really. So, all things considered, I find the setup to be the most optimal, as it lets you access most of your abilities really quickly, but also means your hands stay in the most natural position possible, having to stretch out your fingers too much. This might be a help for those with hand or joint conditions play a bit better too. So, if you've got arthritis or maybe neuropathy like me, you don't want to span your fingers too much. I've got quite big hands as well, so it's a bit. Having said that, we're on YouTube, so I've got to say I'm not a medical professional, and this does not constitute medical advice. Disclaimer right there, okay? The other advantage to setup is that movement is dealt with by one hand, and all the abilities is dealt with by the other. So you've got all your abilities here, and you use your keyboard just for movement and the modifiers, really. This means each hand has a separate job to do and isn't trying to deal with both movement and actions like it would do with keyboard-based keybind. So you're trying to move on your keyboard, let's say, then trying to span out to another button to press an ability and so on. It's not ideal in my book. So next up, import action bars close to the character, less important further away, and the personal and resource display is switched on. I'm not really a fan of weak auras, hot take. I don't like the aesthetic of how a lot of them display, and although I could probably work out what all the different options do, I do find them a bit fiddly when I'm in the interface. So I prefer not to use weak auras beyond some very simple ones, such as the one to keep a track of the IQD trinket in Shadowlands. It give you kind of stats or it'll heal you, that kind of thing. It had many uses, that IQD trinket. Having said that, I still want to keep the track of when the abilities are off cooldown, buff durations, etc. But at the same time, I want to keep an awareness of what's going on within my character's immediate vicinity. I want to know if there's another enemy coming in here, or what's going on. Am I standing in the poo, in fire or something? Could happen. So I don't want my eyes to go too far away from the character model in combat, so I don't want to be looking down here, let's say, or up here, to make sure that things are okay. Also, to be honest, I am a human being as well, so I do have many alts and different button configurations, so it's hard to remember everything all at once, and I do tend to briefly forget sometimes which button does what ability. I mean, who hasn't? As a solution, I found putting the most important action bars as close as possible to my character means I can easily keep tabs on my cooldowns while keeping my eyes close to the action. This is fairly easy to do without taking up too much room, as due to the 3x4 button configuration. It sits quite neatly either side of your character there, maybe below. And then the less important things, let's say mounts, are just further away here. I have key bound these to Alt and number on my mouse, but you don't have to. I mean, you can click those. It's perfectly fine to click these for the professions as well. You know, so they're all on there. Any cooldowns that don't appear on the UI button, so let's say BM Hunter's Pet Frenzy or something, or for example this monk does have Teachings of the Monastery, I believe it's called, where you're built up your blackout kick. There is Teachings of the Monastery right there, so you can just go, right, there's 3 stacks of that, I'll pull the trigger on that. Right next to your character, don't need any extra add-ons for that. And it really does a good job of showing just what you need, really, without the faff I find that I get with colours. So yeah, this is a tour through my UI, why it's set up in that way, and the potential benefits from it. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button, and please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like the content so far. Until next time, hope you have a wonderful day, and see you in the Dragon Isles. Ta-da!